Hey everybody, welcome to Brain Muffin at the Movies, and here we're going to talk about the original Star Wars trilogy instead of that abomination that Disney is forcing on us. And this is something that's been speculated for a long time, and we talked about it even back in 1980 when Yoda said that no, there is another, and then the reveal of Leia being Luke's sister, which I thought was kind of stupid and lame. There was a lot of speculation that it was the woman actually cut out of the first Star Wars movie and or someone off screen that hadn't been revealed yet, but I think it was maybe too much Deus Ex Machina for George or something. Did George Lucas always plan for Leia and Luke to be brother and sister? If not, no. It was first teased in The Empire Strikes Back when the Ghost of he says no, there is another. Lucas likes to give the impression that he had the entire Star Wars saga planned out from the beginning, but the relationship between Luke and Leia always seemed raised eyebrows. After all, he'd originally intended them to be brother and sister. He wouldn't have given them the infamous kiss scene. Curiously enough, there is one point where Lucas has openly admitted he hadn't thought about things in advance. I think he had an overall outline. This is why it starts kind of in the middle, and why this concept that it was episode 4 when it was re-released and they came out with Empire Strikes Back. Because it was always about the fall and the redemption. So you have the redemption of Anakin Skywalker first, and then the boring prequels. In fact, it's explained in a 2004 DVD commentary. The other was introduced as a way to increase tension. It sets up the fact that in this series, Luke could be expendable at this point. Yeah, I've heard this before. It's a cheap trick, but it works. So, in truth, the idea that Leia is the mysterious other doesn't really actually make sense. In The Empire Strikes Back, a headstrong Luke abandons his Jedi training in order to rescue his friends. That's the entire context of the conversation. But if Luke fails and his friends fail, then that means Leia will die. It seems like I've read this before. So, anyway. And, yeah, they both die. An important clue is provided by Lee Brackett's first draft of the script of The Empire Strikes Back, drawn up from Lucas' copious notes. It's very different from the final theatrical cut, but at least in the fact that Darth Vader isn't Luke's father at all. In fact, on Dagobah, Luke even meets the Force ghost of his father and is mentored by him. There's a version of the other scene in the script, though, this time in a conversation between Luke and the Force ghost. You've grown up well, Luke. I'm proud of you. Did your uncle ever speak to you of your sister? My sister, I have a sister. But why didn't Uncle Owen? It was my request when I saw the Empire closing in. I sent you both away from your safety, far away. Okay. Where's she? What's her name? If I were to tell you Darth Vader could get that information from your mind and use her as a hostage, not yet, Luke, when it's time. Will you take me there? Okay, that's interesting. Brackett sadly passed away shortly after completing the first draft, and Lucas took over writing the next few drafts. Interestingly, the entire concept of Luke's sister the other was dropped. A weaker version swiftly found its way back into the script, though. We must find another. And it's a perfect inversion of what Lucas said the scene was supposed to be about. Clearly, Lucas was toying with lots of different ideas, what was going on. Yeah, and again, a better script writer, and then Lucas takes over. This should have been a warning about the prequels. It really should. George Lucas' plans seem to have been seen a remarkable amount of flux around this time. I think he had the overall idea, but not the particulars. Publicly, Lucas was assuring audiences that was all proceeding according to his long laid out plans. But behind closed doors, story was undergoing fundamental changes with a rapid pace. Lucas was gradually settling on a 9-episode trilogy of trilogies, with 20-year gaps between each and the different characters in the starring roles. According to Gary Kurtz, the producer of the Empire Strikes Back, the other Luke's sister was intended to be a major character in the original sequel trilogy. His sister was someone else way over on the other side of the galaxy. She wasn't going to show up until the next episode. Back in 1999, speaking at Plano's Sci-Fi Expo, Kurtz outlined what he believed the trilogy of trilogies would have looked like. Episode 1 is focused on the origins of the Jedi Knights and how they are initiated and trained. 2 would introduce and develop Obi-Wan Kenobi. 3 would introduce introduction and life of Vader, A New Hope, largely the final theatrical cut. 6, Luke would end with Luke confronting Vader and leaving to live a solitary life. Leia would be elected queen of her people, leaving her isolated and alone while Han would die. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's 7, not 6. So, okay. That didn't happen. Although we got Luke in a solitary life. Okay, so this is something that, The Force Awakens does utilize, but they use it in a very stupid way. And then, of course, the Last Jedi are just kind of shits down its throat. Was to focus on Luke's life as a Jedi with very little detail planned out. 8 would see Luke's sister appear from another part of the galaxy. 9 would be the defeat of the Emperor, with Kurtz implying that Luke would have been a major part of his final battle. Okay. Interesting. Confronting Leia and leaving. So I guess does he turn Vader? I mean, does he kill Vader? It seems reasonable to assume that Luke would have been a major figure in the sequel trilogy, maturing into an Obi-Wan style mentor, which is something that Lucas actually asked Mark Hamill about. Mark Hamill has said in interviews when they re-released the original movies in the mid-90s, before episode, or maybe before then. Maybe it was even, I don't know, maybe it was in the late 80s. Seems to have intended each of the trilogy have its own tone and style, and the sequels would seem to have been rather more introspective in his mind. In the interview with Time magazine in 1983, Lucas stated that the sequels would be about the necessity for moral choices and the wisdom needed to be distinguished right from wrong. Given the Emperor was ultimately presented as a powerful source of temptation, he would presumably have been goading the other to fall into the dark side, which Luke was acting as his opposite. Okay, interesting. There are probably 2 reasons why Lucas pivoted away from this idea. The first was that Star Wars films weren't following the episodic model Lucas had envisioned, where each movie stood on its own, independent from the others. The Empire Strikes Back ended with a cliffhanger that demanded resolution and Return of the Jedi. Tied to that, Lucas had only ever gotten his actors signed up for 3 films, and it was clear he couldn't simply recast characters like Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Probably realized that if he left the immediate story incomplete at the end of the 3rd film, and so incomplete the story was only 1/4 of the way finished, he suddenly lost all its actors. He would be faced with a monumental disaster. Yeah, that's true. I'd say that's true. Although Lucas still dreamed of extending the story, neither the prequels nor the sequels were guaranteed, and so he simply had to wrap up the story in Return of the Jedi. Others have suggested Lucas split with his wife, who had been heavily involved in the franchise previously, along with other factors. Yeah, and I think so. I think he was tired of making the movies. That meant tying together all the loose plot threads, including the other, which was introduced in Empire Strikes Back. Leia was the only noteworthy female character. Okay, so and speaking of twin sister, Luke had never known about. There's also neatly resolved the loose love triangle story. It had never seemed heavily invested in. With Luke out of the picture, yeah. So, Luke was kind of out of the picture in Empire Strikes Back. I really feel that's where Leia really started to, and Han really bonded in their trip there. So what do you think? I actually find this, where did it go? This interesting, because we do have Luke in a solitary life in 7, but for stupid reasons. And there's talk about some of the stuff from the other side. Now we're getting things from the beyond and all that for 9. So maybe some of these ideas in a very disruptive fashion will come back in. We'll see. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for clicking like and sharing and sharing and sharing. Bye. Just the 2 of us. Just 2 more. Why do I hear an echo? But is that too loud? Well, I can't see my thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't know where to put I don't know where to be. I don't know. That's too close. All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1.